Welcome to this webinar presented by the National Workzonesafety Information Clearinghouse, which is a project of the American Road and Transportation Builders Association Transportation Development Foundation. I'm Brad Sant, Vice President of Safety for ARTBA. Our purpose in offering these seminars is to provide presentations with support from the U.S. Federal Highway Administration to improve roadway safety for all users during construction processes. Our session today focuses on the safety of the construction worker. This webinar announces the release of version 9 of the Roadway Safety Training Program. This program, again in its 9th version, has been refined, developed, and expanded over the past 8 years through a series of grants provided by the U.S. Federal Highway Administration and the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The program has been developed through collaboration with leading organizations, and they're proud to offer this at no cost. Our presenter today is Walter Jones, who is the Associate Director of Occupational Safety and Health for the Neighbors Health and Safety Fund of North America. Mr. Jones has a BS degree and a master's degree in Environmental and Occupational Health Science. He has spent the last 7 years working with organized labor to protect the health and safety of workers in that industry, including worksite safety and health inspections and evaluations. Mr. Jones also prepares written comments on legislation and regulatory matters for OSHA and EPA. He is a member of the American Public Health Association and in the leadership of that organization, as well as a member of the American Industrial Hygienist Association. Before we turn the time over to Walter, let me just let you know that if you have questions, please feel free to type them in to the dialog box at the bottom of your screen and go ahead and send them to us. At the end of this presentation, we will save some time to answer those questions. So without further ado, please welcome Walter Jones.
Hello everyone. Again, my name is Walter Jones and I'm representing the Labor's Health and Safety Fund. Today I've been asked to introduce you all to the Roadway Safety Plus version 9. Let me just start off by saying that this is my first webinar and I hope you guys bear with me. Normally I would just assume everyone in front of me was naked, but I guess I can't do that now. But what Omar has done is put a poster up right next to the camera and I'll look intensely at it. I like to start out with letting you know, normally when you get your roadway safety CD, it'll come in a CD case like this, and it's a pretty simple product. You'll enter it right into your computer, and without having to do anything, it'll automatically load itself. Once it's loaded, this is the screen you're going to get. It's going to come up, and those of you that are familiar with the roadway safety program, you'll notice that the screen is still somewhat similar. The few differences in version 9 versus other versions is that it brings up all of our consortium partners in this project. We like to call ourselves the Roadway Safety Partnership or Consortium, which is the laborers, ARPA, the operating engineers, NAPA, National Asphalt Paving Association, the Texas Transportation Institute. We're gladly to welcome in AASHTO, American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, CNA Insurance, and none of this could have been done without the ingenious support of FOF Communications. Again, when you load the CB into your computer, you're going to get this menu option here, and at the top of the screen we've added a menu toolbar to help you set up the program to make it unique or specific to your own training needs. Along the left-hand side, we still have our makeshift menu, but you'll notice here that on the first-time user, when you click it, it gives you tips for use. And these are just the basic tips. A lot of what we'll be talking about today that discuss running the program, changing module order in a very short and quick format. Also, you'll notice here on here, we have also inserted a how-to play video. And this video is a self-explanatory how to do it when I'm not around to help you get through the program. And it just talks about a lot of the different features associated with the program. Importantly, though, along the top is the the menu toolbar that I want to direct your attention to. If you go to the first one, the set module order, this is probably one of the more important features of the program in that it introduces you to the original 14 modules that the program was originally based on, that covers the safety and health aspects of hazards associated with roadway work. We go anywhere from runovers to flagging, night work, emergencies, and our last module at that time was safe driving. And then you look at these last 6 modules, 6 or 7 modules, and they cover the new modules covering the highway aspects associated with the hazards. Specifically, though, in order to load all of the modules, you're going to have to click the box that you want to use as part of your training. And in addition, if you want to change the order, just like in the other modules, you can just move the title or the module you want to into the order that you want it to appear, just by dragging and clicking. And once you did that, you can go over here to Save Module New Order, give it a name, and the next time you want to give that same presentation, you go to Load Module Order and you can load it again. When you're done with that module or you feel you're not going to use it anymore, you can also go to Delete and you can delete that particular module. On the right-hand side of our menu here, we've also offered you recommended preset module options. These options is first, Roadway Safety Basic Awareness, which is the first 14 modules that the earlier versions uncovered. A 1-hour night work module that covers the 4 or 5 different modules on night work, and disaster response. And you click those and you get a preset order where they bring those particular modules right to the top. Myself, I've already have a module selected that we're going to use today, and we're going to go to that particular model, and that's the one we're going to use. On the second tab of the menu options is downloading, which is another significant feature of this particular version, in that you will no longer need a new CD when we get updates. Whenever we have an update, you will just log on to the computer, and if you can log on to the internet, it will let you know whether there are new versions of the modules available by right-clicking a particular module. You'll let you know it does not have currently does not have a download available. And if I right-click lighting, it does say that there is a newer version, and then we can download it if we so choose. And it will, in this particular one, will take 3 to 5 minutes. We're not going to wait that long. In addition, you can also download the English, Spanish, and Portuguese speech versions that are associated with this entire program. The setup screen menu is similar to what we used before, and it's to be used depending on your screen size or whatever type monitor you're using. The compliance edition associated with this version of Roadway Safety, if you click right here, and what it will do is show you all the regulations associated with the best practices in this program. As we've often said, the Roadway Safety Program is a collection of the best and preferred practices. They go beyond the OSHA requirements. And if you're in a particular state that has nuances not really associated with the rest of the country, you can click here and you'll either include all the states, or you can click and get your particular state, and it'll just download compliance requirements associated just with, in this case, the state of Florida. What I'm going to do is click all, and we're going to go and look at any compliance information associated with all states, including information associated with ANSI and MUTCD requirements. And whenever, again, this also offers a compliance download assistance where you would just click, right-click, and I'll let you know if there's new compliance data that needs to be downloaded. If we move on to quiz setting, this system is set up for an audience response system, what we call an ARS system. And if you have the modules that can use the audio response system, you click here and you can set it up for the quiz. I'm going to download the module quizzes for use today. If we go the next tab, units of measures, we're going to stick with the English measurements, but it also is available to the measures of units of measurement metric. Installing fonts and printing material. As before, you can print any of the modules associated with the particular presentation you're going to do. If we were going to do a module on flagging, I could print that out on an 8.5 by 11 size sheet of paper. If you have a color copier, it'll even come out in color just as it is there. We can also do the trainee booklets. If that's what you chose to use, you can download and print out the instructor manual and case studies as well. Getting back to, once we've set up the module order, we're ready to go. We're ready to set the program up and see what it looks like. We press start, and we still have the choice of interactive or slideshow. Myself, in the past, I've often used slideshow. It was quicker and allowed me to have more control of the program as I gave it to audiences. But the interactive feature now is becoming almost like an internet game. So it's a lot more fun to use interactive, and that's what we're going to do today. We open up to our disclaimer here, where we got the funds to provide this program, and it goes directly into what is a roadway safety program. And you click, and you get all the players in the roadway safety consortium. As I said, the laborers, operators, ARPA, NAPA, TTI, ASHTO, CNA, and I forgot to mention U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. And disclaimer again is this is a 10-hour awareness course. We like to believe that it's a lot more than awareness, but we still call it a 10-hour awareness course, and it's not to substitute for an OSHA 10 at this point, but it should supplement an OSHA 10. The material here is that good, that update, and that powerful. The first new module that we've added to the CD in the 9.0 version is TTCDs. What are the main hazards associated with TTCDs? And like the module has done in the past, first thing we do is we discuss what the problems are, and then we give you solutions. And this follows that same format in that we discuss what are the main hazards of TTC, you click, and for workers it tells you struck by motorists, struck by construction vehicles, fall from vehicles, angry motorists. And for motorists, there's concerns that they should be aware of as well. Entering a buffer zone is dangerous to the car and the vehicle occupants. Merging as lanes closes is also problematic in the highway situation. In each of these modules, we've had demonstrations like in the past. What's different this time, we've numbered them so that you'll know how to go directly to them. And if you click the number, it'll take you to a particular demo. This particular demo deals with hazard demonstration about a fall from a vehicle. It's a video from a newscast. If you click it, and it'll begin to discuss an accident that happened on I-70 about laying out traffic cones.
If this were one of the construction pickups that were used, there'd be a place for me to sit on the back and then pick up cones, tossing them into the bed of the truck while we slowly move backwards. Now, in this case, it appears whoever was sitting back here somehow fell off and under the truck without the driver knowing.
We think videos are a powerful addition to this particular program in that it brings home a lot of what we're talking about often. Again, if we click another demonstration, this takes you back to one of our earlier modules where we talk about how you should deal with the angry public and what employees should do, because that's what we're going to face out there. A lot of times when we're slowing down traffic, the public does not understand why. They just know they have to get to work on time. Even though they're always late, they're going to blame you this time. As if you're the flagger, you catch the brunt. The response from our flaggers is not to get angry back, so we have to teach them how to deal with an angry public, and this is one slide tries to help with that. As we move on, you'll notice as each of these slides in the interactive version, it talks to you in a question-answer format. What we are trying to elicit from the folks we're training is a question-answer. We ask a question, they give us an answer. We want them to be participating in this program. This is not a computer-based program where you just sit, click, read, and learn. This program is intended to provide discussion on the issues we're talking about and raise issues and concerns from our trainees. And you'll notice how each of the pictures, I'm not going to get too much in this presentation, trying to give you what the slides are talking about. I want to talk more about the teaching techniques of what we're trying to do here. And again, each click of the mouse will bring up a different picture to bring home the points of what the lines are talking about. And here we have again, we click one, and it takes us more and how do we protect ourselves. And we have 3 or 4 different versions of platforms and how they're used. Often workers and many trainers when they're out in the field are not aware of any platforms that workers can use when laying out TTCDs. This particular module has been developed to show different options that are available out there. And although some workers or contractors may not be able to provide these, we're just letting them know that they are available and safe measures to protect workers at probably one of the most dangerous tasks involved in highway work is laying out cones. Again, the demo here, what we're trying to bring home is that even though we may have these different devices, we still need to be buckling up or being tied off. As you saw in the demonstration, a scene before, a worker fell off the back of the truck, and if we'd have played the video further, his supervisor says, we never tie anyone off to the truck because it's not right. Well, we don't know that that's necessarily correct. We believe you should be tied off so that you're not allowed to fall off as much as possible. How can we safely place CDs, And it goes through the whole process of doing it correctly. Each slide, illustration is associated with this safe practice to its left. And then we bring home with more demonstrations on, if we click one, what's a class 1 garment, and in this case, what's a class 2 and when it should be used, and what's a class 3 and when it should be used. Some of these illustrations and demos will appear in more than one slide because it's assumed that all slides will not always be used. So we want to make sure that we're bringing home the most pertinent information, the most visually important information at the same time that we're making the statement about the best practice. What are the best practices in this case? Place, relocate, remove the traffic cones and devices when the traffic is light. And then we go through and we'll show you a way to do that. And this is one way in which it can be done safely. We have a worker that's in a cage, tied off, and protected. And then if we want to show how to do it, we want to do it back to front in order to protect the workers again at one of the more hazardous things we do out there. After we finish with the slide, you'll have no more, with the particular module in, it'll have no more arrows here to click, and you go on to the next slide depending on the order that you want to go into. In this particular one, we're talking about what are the parts of a temporary traffic control zone, and it has 4. We have the advance warning, the transition area, the activity area, and the termination area. And we have where the signs are set up, and we also have the work area here, the activity area. The demo in here is a little interesting. It's not working totally correct today because of we're having some keyboard problems. But once you set it up, you can click here for a demonstration, or you can go ahead and press shift, and you'll notice that the car starts moving. As the car passes this first sign, you'll see the sign, the second sign, the third sign. We're not trying to teach you anything new here. What we're trying to show you is that whenever you're setting up a traffic control zone, that you drive through it to see that it does what you intended to do. Does it warn warn motorists of impending hazards? In this case, you see the line of cones coming, and as a driver, I would see the impending line of cones. Now, if I had a steering wheel, I would probably be able to steer this a little better than our computer-generated one, because all it wants to do is turn into the work zone and not left in this case. So, but normally it would just turn around the work zone and turn back. But it's a really interesting little demonstration that'll show folks the importance of working through the work zone and driving through the work zone to see that we set it up correctly to protect folks. Again, we have these numbers at the bottom to let you know. Now, if you want to drill down deeper into what the transition area is, you have the option now to bring it up and to discuss with your trainees exactly what's going on here. And we do that for each activity and for each area, I should say. On this one, it's a little more in-depth, but we begin to get into tapers. And you see that a lot in the MUTCD. What's a taper? How do we set up tapers? And there are a lot of different types of tapers. We have a shifting taper, a shoulder taper, merging tapers. And how do we set them up is often the question. As I drive through work zones, I often wonder, how do they do that? And it looks haphazard or not, but the MTD sets up guidelines on how to do it. You click one, and it begins to tell you, based on the speed and how large you want the lane, it begins to tell you what you need to do to set the taper up, and the tapers are based on this equation. So depending on if you're working with foremen or upper management, you can begin to discuss how we're going to taper each of these different areas. And if you're just going through it in an office setting, you can begin to discuss how we're going to do this and how far out we're going to have to go, and what does that mean to the work zone. We can pre-plan this problem, this situation, to address any problems, and that's exactly how we're going to handle anything in highway safety. Is if we pre-plan the hazards out, we won't have to deal with them when we find them. Again, this is another demonstration where we go about how we're going to set up our tapers and how we're going to set up our advanced warnings to address the speeds that are going on in the work zone. And this talks a bit about the MUTCD, and here's an index of all the different TAs we currently have and the different ones we're going to have online later. This is a little game we like to play. It's based on the quiz that I set up earlier. If we had our ARS machines, I would tell everyone to pull out your ARS clicker, and we'll start with a little quiz. Where will work take place? And you'll have your audience yell out, Omar, yell out, well, where will work take place? And you'll figure out which area, and I will assume work will take place in this area, and put it up there. And it says no. Well, we know it's probably right there, right? No. No. Of course, that's where work takes place. I was being facetious, but again, advanced warning zone areas tells traffic what to expect next. Where's the activity area? Transition area. So you're able to work through with your employees or your managers on how you want to set this up so they fully understand, and you can give points on. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm getting it wrong. But and that's it there. Okay, and that's just a little demonstration of how we do it. We'll go to the next section, run over and back overs. Here is an extended version of one of our earlier modules where, because runover and backwards for laborers, it's probably our #1 cause of death on the job. Runovers and backovers, 50% of the accidents that happen on highway jobs are primarily due to runovers and backovers from workers being run over and backed over their own construction equipment, and the other 50% are primarily due to motorist intrusions into the work zone. There's very little we can do, more than we can do addressing motorist issues, but we can address worker issues. So in terms of what's going on in the workplace, this module, and it's a very long module. If we look at it here, it's 18 different slides, where we're anticipating this to be about a 1-hour module where you discuss in depth the issues associated with runover backwards and when workers are struck when on foot and otherwise. In recent years, 63% of workers' deaths were due to runover backovers, more than half by construction vehicles. The remainder are vehicles traveling through the work zone. Even though motorist intrusion into the work zone gets the high attention, it is still the other half that we can actually control through the use of internal traffic control plans and pre-planning that will put workers and vehicles on different paths so that they're not being struck by in vehicle collisions as often. Why are there so many runover backovers? Well, that answers itself. Congestion, a whole lot of cars. And we began to discuss this in this program, and that's what this particular module, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but it's beginning to discuss how we can lower the number of workers being killed by motorists, the number of workers being killed by other construction vehicles. You know, the big thing we never understand from construction workers, we never understand why motorists are running into the work zone. And one way we can get around this is by letting the worker know that many times motorists just don't see you. Besides the fact that they may be impaired or whatever, they just don't see you, and they're surprised by the work zone setup. And then there are those who just ignore the warning. And what this module is doing is trying to bring home why we're killed and how we can prevent these accidents from occurring. The next module is the one we worked out, spent a lot of time on, especially because this is the direction it seems like most work is going, especially around major urban centers. Why do we focus on night work? You know, basically it has many different advantages. You know, reduced traffic volume being #1, better access to the work site, longer work shifts. It's a lot cooler in the summer, and one big issue these days is reduced business impact. The other side of the coin, however, is all the hazards that we see during the daytime are amplified at night, and in addition to having to deal with impaired, drowsy drivers and other safety hazards. This particular night work module is the first of 4, and what it's discussing here is night work risks and why night work is hazardous. And we think it's important, especially in light of what we're seeing, the increased volume of night work in urban areas that we discussed this. And some of the demos we brought to bring this home is here. If we click to, we talk about throughout this and the other night work demonstrations, the hazards of glare and what it really means to the driver and how we need to control it on a work zone. What about nighttime TTCs and well, I should go back to that, but another virtue of this particular program is that we will connect with internet connection. You can connect right on to different OSHA pages, and this is a particular one that we were interested in going to. I must have missed something here. Here we go. And the other virtue of this program that's still consistent is the fact that it still is in Spanish. It still plays in Spanish. And if you click the button down here and right click, it should even do voice in Spanish. having an error here. There you go. That's not what we wanted. Yeah, I don't know. I have a little problem here with the voice volume. It's turned down and we're not getting it up for some reason. But it does do voice in Spanish as well. And you just click here and we can go right back into English. I think what happened is during the setup I did not click voice in the beginning, and that's probably why it's not speaking. And Omar's whispering in my ear that the speaker is off too. Okay, more safety enhancements. What about worker protections? What are we going to do on these work zones to protect workers? We've already been talking about high visibility gear, and we're going to talk about a little bit more of that in the next one here when we talk about night work, high visibility gear. No, I didn't want to see that sign. Let's try it again. Okay. Didn't expect that. One thing about the program, and I'll be up front with you, it's chock filled with so much information. It has so much going on that there are some bugs in it. We're building on a platform layer and layer and layer, and sometimes the bugs will come out in it, and we have to guard against it. This is just a particular case where too many clicks got us. I'm going to go back, load my original program. And start again. I'll have to say that, there's the voice box. I have to say that ever since we've added that new quick version here, that we can go right back to the instructor menu. We don't have to restart the program like we did in the past
Roadway
when we had problems. And now we have volume.
Course or more in-depth training. It is a labor management safety reminder.
And if we wanted it to speak in Spanish, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it's in Spanish now. But let's go back to where we were in Night Zone. This program, if you get lost, you can always go up here to the menu option, come down to Night Work, and we were going to go straight to High Vis. I'm going to go back to English that I know a little better than my Espanol. And what are high visibility garments? And we begin to talk about what are the characteristics associated with it. And if we, we have a little demo here where with the lights on, what happens to regular clothing. Since light is diffuse when it strikes an object, and it shows in 360 different degrees because light is diffuse. And what retroreflective does is it uses beads and different other technology to refocus the light straight back into the eye of the person directly looking at it. So often when you're riding by someone with retroreflective gear on, it looks as if they light up or glow or someone flips a switch. But it's only you directly that can see that because the light from your headlights is going straight into the garment and bouncing back into your eye. It's not as diffuse as it was before, and that's what gives high visibility, or what we call retroreflective gear or conspicuous gear. It's needed and it's calling out here, and that's why we use it all the time. Again, here's another really cute demo that we have here. A car at this case 1,400 feet away, and out here somewhere is a worker. This particular worker is set up to be wearing retroreflective gear, but if we put them in street clothing and we press start, we see how long does it take before that person is noticed by the headlights of the car. and it takes almost 500 feet before he becomes somewhat visible, and 200 to 300 feet before we can actually see someone. If we had the same person in fluorescent gear, and we press start, and fluorescent gear was the clothing du jour of choice prior to retroreflective gear, and we see at about 400 feet he's becoming mildly available to eyesight, and as we keep going, oh, that's me again moving the cursor, but we're looking at about 400 or 500 feet, and now we can finally see him. But with retroreflective gear, if we pull our car back to about 1,200 feet, we start seeing someone at 1,000 feet away. Why is that important? If we go to one of our earlier modules, and I believe it's flagger safety.
What are the main hazards of flagging? Motorists feel about 20 flagging can be hanged after
We get to this particular demo that we had all the time that most of you are familiar with, where we set up the timing and we put a person on drive pavement and we tell them to start, and then when we brake, we're looking, in this case, 400 feet. Now, this calculation is based on the ability of the driver to see ingested data down to his foot, put on the brake to stop. It takes about 400 feet for that to happen. And in the prior demo, what we're looking at about 400 feet, someone in street clothing would have been run over, and someone in regular iridescent gear would have been close to being hit. But with retroreflective gear, we still have about another 600 feet left before that person would come in contact with a flagger. And this brings home the need and the reason why we think it's important that you use retroreflective gear, and why it's a perfect this is a perfect training tool to bring home why you need it clean, and why you need it at all times on a work site. What is required for worker visibility? Well, this is based on the ISCA ANSI 107-2004 high visibility safety requirements, and we just break it out for you so that you can sell this as you're teaching it to your employees or to your workers, that you're not just making this up. These are requirements that are needed, and they're based on what's going on, based on studies and based on what other agencies have thought was appropriate. I can go on and on and on and on with this particular program, and I'm beginning to get the sign that we're running close to time. So I want to make sure I cover as much as I can to show you all the new fangled stuff we've filled this program with. If I can go to another module here. On night work lighting. And this is more of a supervisor module because workers are not going to be involved in temporary lighting and the goals of what we need to do. But it's something we want to teach workers nonetheless, because they need to know when they're walking on a work site whether it's safe or not. And again, we're looking at what it looks like on a work site when it's not glaring, and what it looks like when it is when it is lit, when it's not lit, and what it looks like when there's no glare and there is glare. There is a difference. I mean, this is not perfect. What we're trying to show is work sites should have some sort of consistency at night if we're going to be able to do a good, productive, and safe job. And this is what this program is trying to show in terms of illumination. And again, illumination is primarily a management responsibility, but this is also teaching. It is a useful teaching tool for supervisors and managers, as well as getting across to workers why you need a well-lit workplace, but why glare and shadows can be problematic. And each of the pictures, as I say, the illustrations, I should say, are really appropriate to the recommended practice that's being suggested. I only have one other slide that we really should go over, and I'm not going to have enough time to really get into it, but this is our new emergency disaster response module, and this is another about an hour-long course, hour-long course that covers what is emergency response in disasters and how do we respond and how do we handle it. It's probably not directly part of highway work, but it is a useful module to help workers who may be responding to a natural disaster that have to do highway work, that repair highways and put them back together again after a hurricane, after a tornado, after a flood, and what we have to do to protect ourselves to the hazards associated with these unique hazards. Who do we have to listen to? Who do we respond to? Is what this particular module goes over, and and in depth, we discuss what is the incident command system, and the go here will take us directly back to the internet, and we can read about it. So the program is really interactive. It has come in leaps and bounds from where it was earlier, and we think this is a useful addition to any training tool. We like to believe that this particular program has cornered the market on roadway safety and roadway safety hazards. It's a free program available to all who ask just about, and it's been developed by the Roadway Safety Consortium of management, labor, and academia and government working to protect workers and keep our highways safe and protect motorists. With that, Brad, I think I'm about finished and ready to take any questions.
Sure. Our first question that has come in, Walter, is, well, there's one that's come in relating to installation of the program, and we understand that people will have challenges installing this, particularly on systems that are protected, since this has automated programs. But one question is given: if the full training of all these modules are used, what is the expected length of the program?
That's about a 4 or 5 hour program at least. When we used to do the original 14 modules, I used to do them in about 2.5 hours with break. We now have a night work program that's probably about an hour and a half. We have a run-over, back-over program that's about an hour, and the disaster response is about 45 minutes. So yeah, we're looking about 4 or 5 hours. If you want to do a full day safety orientation for new hires and management, this is an excellent choice to run for the whole day if you have someone that could teach it.
Yeah, it's my understanding as well, Walter, it depends on how much information you want to convey. If you're just going through the main slides, you could probably do that in about 4 or 5 hours. But if you drill down and start doing all the demos and all the sub-information, particularly in the modules like disaster response, where there's multiple categories of information. And I think in the roadway runovers and backovers section, there's different modules depending on your audience, whether it's for workers or for supervisors or for DOT personnel. All those things expand the program. So as you mentioned, I think it's probably multiple days worth of training if you really went through everything in the program. Next question that comes for you, Walter, is how can they get a copy of the training CD?
You can contact any of the partners, me personally, or you can download it from the Workzonesafety, the National Workzonesafety Information Clearinghouse. You can also get that from WORKZONE safety, SAFETY.org, and you can download it for free.
If someone were to download that program, how long do you think that would take, given the size of all the information that's in there?
What I've heard last was an hour and a half, but I don't know if that's still correct. But it's a big program. We would suggest if at all possible, because of some of the issues we've heard with downloading, that you get a CD to download the main components, and then once you log on the internet, it'll download the remaining parts for you, or the extra parts that you may need.
Yeah, and that's something I just might add is as Walter mentioned, it's now available for download through the clearinghouse as of today, and you can pick and select which things you want to choose. So there may be modules on there that are not relevant, and so if you don't click on that box, you won't get that module. Or you may opt not to have the audio files, which take up a lot of space. So it's pretty menu driven, and you can do a lot of that.
And Omar at ARPA said, give him a call. He'll send you a CD right away.
Yeah, one of the questions that comes up here is the software free, or do you purchase it? And
it is free.
It is free.
This is the best buy in the country right now.
Okay. Next question, it says, for those of us who have the original program and flip charts, etc., do they need to request new copies, or will they automatically be sent the updates?
You're going to have to request. We've given out, my guess is 20, 30, maybe 50,000 copies of these CDs, and copies of these CDs, and we don't have a database of who has what. Hopefully, now that we've got it online, we'll have a little bit better control of this. But yes, you're going to have to contact one of the partners listed on your screen in order to get a CD with all the new and updated information. And from this point on, and I have my fingers crossed, that you'll be able to download updates and additional modules, because we do have 4 or 5 more modules online to come online in the next couple of years.
Okay, good. And if they want to find the address of how to request those modules, where would they find the address for all these organizations?
Well, you can go to the National Workzonesafety Information Clearinghouse. That was a softball question, but just go right to the National Workzonesafety Clearinghouse. You can Google it. Like I said, it's Workzonesafety, oneword.org. You can contact the partners. You can contact the folks that gave you access to this particular webinar. It's available a lot of, and then we'll point you in the right direction.
All right, next question. Can they burn their own copies of the CD and the handouts, or is there some kind of copyright applied to this?
Unlike a lot of information out there, this is not copyrighted. You can burn your own. Once you have a CD, you can burn copies of the CD and give them out freely. You can also make as many copies as you want of the handouts and give them out freely. It's a non-copyrighted program. It's free. It's government paid, so we're giving it back to the people who paid for it, the people. It's public domain.
All right. And the question, is there a quiz for every module that's out there?
Not for every module, no. There's the first 14 modules, there certainly are not quizzes for, but there are quizzes for the traffic, the TA application, typical applications, and we're developing questions for other modules, but no, not yet. But in a couple of years, when this grant runs its course, we hope to have questions and testing information for each of the modules.
Okay, and I believe that now on the screens, for those who are watching this through the internet, you'll see the home page of the WorkZone Clearinghouse, which has the web address, and there's a rotating image there. One of those 4 images pops up, brings up this webinar, and if you click on that, you can get to the program. Or if you scroll down right underneath the rotating image, there is a link directly to the download section of the program. So we have several people who've asked questions about, asking us to send you the download page, etc. Again, it's right there. You can see it on your screens as well. We'd also like to remind you, as you go to download the program or go to the website where the Roadway Safety Program is explained, even if you order a CD. And again, you can go to that same place, and that's where the addresses are for the CD ordering. Please take the survey. We want feedback from you of how the program is being used, if it's effective, if there are improvements that you see need to be made to it. This is an ongoing program. We're very excited about the release of version 9, but we're already working on version 10. So we continue to improve it and try to expand it and make it better. All right. Well, I think that covers most of the questions.
Brad, I just wanted to ask a question. Don't we have a survey on the website? And we're looking for feedback. At this stage, it's important that we start getting more feedback from you on what you like, don't like, how we can make this better. And there are surveys on the website. Please, you know how surveys are. 10 answers can speak for 100 people. So even if you're the only one that wants to do the survey, that's fine. But please, folks, use the survey. Give us some feedback, because your one answer is speaking for, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of people. Thanks.
Good. And just to recap some of the questions, the new modules, there were originally 12 or so modules in the original version. New ones that have been added are now the disaster response module, the take-up and deployment and retrieval of temporary traffic control devices. There are 3 different night work modules, an expanded runovers and backovers module. And I think I haven't missed any of them, but that's kind of a recap. This video session will be archived. It will be available on the Workzone Clearinghouse, and you'll be able to just look at that rotating banner or one of the first lines in the center of the page. It'll give you links to be able to watch this webinar and any of the others that have been previously recorded. Usually it takes us about a day to get the webinar up live. And again, if you have questions, you can send them to the Clearinghouse listserv, and we'll answer them, or send an email to us, and we'll try to make sure that all those questions are posted and answered for future reference. And so that'll be it. There's one more question here about continuing education credits. There's a form that needs to be filled out. There's a link on the Clearinghouse in the webinar section for that form, and then that's turned into Lisa McCluskey, and we can provide professional development hours for attending the course. A couple just more questions. We have like one more minute before we wrap up here.
Sure.
Questions that said, you mentioned that the CD is available through the website and download. What about the flip books and the handouts and all those other parts of the program? How can people get copies of those?
Well, besides printing them, everything but the flip books you can print once you have a copy of the CD or download it. But each of the partners listed above will be getting something like 400 or 500 copies of each of the items you just mentioned, and they should be available sometime this fall, and that we will be making available sometime this fall. I'm not sure of a hard date on when they'll be available, but we will be making a reprint of the instructor manual, the student manuals, the toolbox talk guides, the flip books. We're not sure at this time how many we're going to be making. So you're going to have to get back to us through the Workzone Clearinghouse on the availability and how to pick those up. But I'm pretty certain that in the coming weeks, by the fall, we should have copies of at least the student manual and the instructor manual available.
All right, well, very good. Well, thank you to everyone for participating in this Workzonesafety Information Clearinghouse webinar. Again, as we mentioned earlier, this will be archived for on-demand viewing and will be up probably by the end of the day, but if not, for sure by tomorrow. We hope you'll stay tuned and check in regularly at the Workzone Clearinghouse. That's workzonesafety.org for a lot of great new information. If you haven't been there lately, in addition to this program, a whole new section on international programs and things in multiple languages. We have a avoiding runovers and backovers section that has been added to the Clearinghouse. So there's a lot of new information that continues to be added. So come back often, and we hope to see you again at our next webinar. Thanks so much.